when you're working with immigrant populations, there is this subpopulation of unaccompanied immigrant children that are eligible for legal relief, or many times are eligible for legal relief. And we have to be asking the right questions. And I think, I often talk about this when I present about our program, is that when I first met this child that came on the mobile medical unit, I did not realize the designation that he was eligible for, this legal status. And it made me think about many children that I have seen that I did not refer to lawyers that could have really helped them and made a big difference in their life. And so now I evangelize about the need for us to ask the right questions so that we could make the proper referral to a lawyer.
A lot of these kids have cases where they need really sensitive and really comprehensive advocates from the medical side. And sometimes that means talking about a medical issue. I mean, we've had cases that we've worked on together where there was a very concrete medical need, and documenting that medical need was a fundamental part of the case. But we've also had cases in which taking a very in-depth social history, as I know you do, is really crucial, because it allows a doctor to tell a story from a physical perspective that a child may not be able to articulate verbally. And so many of these cases have that impetus, that necessity, where ironically the thing that a child may want to talk about the least is the thing that they need to talk about the most in order to make their case in immigration court, because the majority of these cases on the legal side have to do with things like asylum and special immigrant juvenile status, which by their very nature involve trauma. And when you're dealing with children, expressing, documenting, and sort of sharing really stories of trauma in a court and legal context can be very challenging. Dr. Shapiro has written letters and advocated for our clients before, talking about clients with cognitive delays. So if we go into an asylum office and the child can't write their name or can't tell you what day of the week it is, that there's a context for that. And it's not coming from a lawyer, it's coming from a physician. Or if there's a client who's been traumatized to the point where they're not able to clearly articulate a past experience that's essential to their case, a doctor can sort of support what a lawyer might be saying about the reasons for that confusion or for that fundamental issue. And so for us to have clinical, objective evidence that speaks in harmony with the legal case and with what is in the child's best interest and what they might not be able to say themselves is just so valuable.
There was one case that I think about a lot, which is a case that Brett presented to me that I found very challenging. This was a teenager from Africa who the courts refused to believe his age because his documents were...
They'd been compromised by an older relative or an adult in the Gambia where he was from.
Brett said, well, why don't you just look at his medical records from the past? And he sent me this big pile of medical records. And, I'm sorry I didn't charge by the hour, actually. But going through them, I realized that there was records from the time he was about 15 years old. And he was this incredible soccer player and played very competitive soccer, and had, of course, injured his knee, and so had gone to a hospital where he actually had an MRI of the knee. And in one of those incredible lucky moments, I called the hospital, I spoke to the radiologist, she looked at the film, she said, yes, his growth plate at that time was not closed, and he had to be between 15 and 16 years of age or something like that. And it turns out that, and she was willing to write a letter to support her findings, and that really cinched the fact that his age was exactly what he was saying he was. And so that was, when you talk about the medical legal nexus and how we can work collaboratively for a patient's benefit, there's no case almost that I think of more than that case.
And just to add another bright spot to that young man was recently admitted to college only a week or two ago.
Right.
And Dr. Shapiro calls it luck, but from where I'm sitting, it's really sort of that willingness to take a second look, that willingness to get involved, to look through that stack of medical papers, even though you're not being paid by the hour, and really to see, what can be done from a medical perspective to improve this young man's life.